welcome to the Hear Her Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Jennifer, and I am a deaf knitter, crocheter, quilter, and sewist located in Baltimore, Maryland. And Hi there, welcome to the Hear Her Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Jennifer, and I am a deaf knitter, crocheter, quilter, and sewist located in Baltimore, Maryland. And here in my podcast, I mostly talk about the things I'm quilting or the things I'm knitting and how they're going. I am a fairly new knitter. I've only been knitting garments this year. In fact, my very first garment was completed in January of 2024. So this is my first full year of garments where I am kind of learning about the things I like as far as fit, as far as make, as far as what the finished object is like and how I like it. So I have a pile of make to share with you today. And I also have a bunch of pictures of makes and some b-roll of the things on me. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I like about them, if they're being worn, and several of these if they're going to be frogged and why. So most of the problems that I have with my knitting probably come from me being a new knitter. Like this year I learned about short rows and how a construction that's basically a giant square isn't going to fit me the way I want it to. So, so to start out today, we'll start with January, and the first thing I knitted, and I'm going to have to just share a picture because the very first thing, so the very first thing I completed was a gift knit, and I knitted this hat. I kind of called it a freaking hat, and it was a mix of like 3 different patterns. It's mostly garter stitch with a rib form in a color changing green yarn, which is the Lion brand Ferris wheel yarn in like Imagine or Imaginary Garden. And that one was for a curly haired friend, and because it was for a curly haired friend, I lined it in satin, and I used my machine to sew the lining in, so it was really well fitted. So that is the first item I completed in 2024. And then my next one was also a hat, and I tried to make a hat for myself. I used the leopard hat, snow leopard hat, and pattern. And I used a yarn I had on hand, which was the Lion brand Feels Like Butter, and in teal and ice, I believe. And so I really like that yarn as far as the feel of it goes. But since this was my first ever attempt at color work, it did not go to plan. And I will show you a picture of the hat, which has been gifted at this point. I took it to our local Free Little Pantry. So someone in the neighborhood with a smaller head than me, which I have a small head, could wear it. So probably a child. So that ended up, because I'd never done color work before, because I tend to be a very tight knitter. Anyway, I didn't know like any of the tricks to loosen up my color work so that the color work itself wasn't like cinching in majorly. So basically my first ever color work hat was a gigantic fail, at least as far as fit goes for me. But it was very cute, and I'm planning on using that particular colorwork pattern, again, to make another hat for myself, probably in a different yarn and probably a little bit bigger. All right. So my first official finished garment of 2024 was, and I've talked about this a lot because honestly it's been my favorite, was this cardigan. And so I saw Jackie's talking about ever knitting a cardigan as a beginner knitter because of people talking about purling, being not enjoying the purling part of it, and how the whole cardigan is, it's not quite knitted flat, but it's definitely knitted like turning back and forth. So I don't know, I just like being a brand new knitter and also being brand new to the knitting podcasting world. I just didn't have that influence yet when I decided to knit this. And also, I've always been a big cardigan wearer. So, like, initially, I started knitting a raglan sweater, like October sweater, which was the pattern that the yarn came with for Lion Brand. And I didn't like the product at all once I had finished the neckline. So I jumped onto Ravelry, which is also brand new to me. I don't think I've been on Ravelry very much before that. And looked around and found the Shapely Boyfriend, which then I modified, not knowing anything about anything, and made it a little more A-line for myself. So I will put in some B-roll with this right here. Is my boyfriend cardigan, which is the first knit I knitted this year, the most worn knit I knitted this year, and probably, I think I'm gonna make again just because I love it so much and I want it in something that's not acrylic, but honestly this acrylic is worn really well considering for acrylic. So one garment down. So the next thing I knit, that was all in January, I believe. Yep. So the next thing I finished was I finished a pair of gloves. They're called the Magic Loop gloves. I actually should have these, but they are in my partner's jacket. They're his dog walking gloves. So I finished the Magic Loop gloves and I made the largest extra large size that I could in a Lion Brand fisherman wool in the birch colorway, which is kind of a tweedy off-white colorway. And those turned out great. But I started the first one in December because they were intended to be a Christmas gift. And I finished the second one in the middle of February. So I technically finished these in February. Yeah. So that was the next one. My next Christmas / February gift. So that was the only thing I finished in February. I must have, oh yes, so February, our puppy came home. And between that and just like adjusting to his new schedule, I spent a lot of time up and down. So I started knitting an interlock blanket and I got like 5 or 6 rows in and decided that I didn't like it that much. I liked the process of knitting interlock, but it was huge, and also it was just like, it was not like hard, like crochet has a right and a wrong side, but it's not quite as extreme of a right and a wrong side as interlock was. And I was like, I didn't like the appearance of the wrong side, so I took all those colors and started knitting a crochet blanket, which is the Summer Fade Hexy blanket, which I'm working on now. So that was what I spent most of February doing, but that is still nowhere near done. And then I started and finished in March. Well, no, I started in February as well. So our dog trainer had a baby in February, and we were doing agility with them soon after the baby was a couple months old. I think like May-ish or like early summer. And so once the baby was born, I decided I was going to knit them a stuffy in the breed and color style of her first service dog. Whoops, hold on. Of her first service dog and her they're like training dog. So she's a dog trainer. So her dog is a husky German Shepherd mix, and so I knitted this toy stuffy in black and brown. And I knitted it off of the Coda, the puppy pattern, which is a husky pattern, and then I did some shaping of the colors and some duplicate stitch to try to make it better match her own dog. So that turned out really cute, and that was gifted to them. And then in March, I continued on with mostly accessory knits. So I knitted a headscarf, which was I knitted a headscarf. Maybe it was the Penelope, I'm not sure. I knitted one of those tie-on headscarves, and I gifted that. And then I knitted a headband, which was the rose cotton headband pattern, and I knit that in Line Brand Feels Like Butter in teal because I have a lot of that yarn. And then in April, I started and finished knitting the Norwegian Rose headband after seeing High Fiber knit one in the really pretty 90s brown and hot pink colors. So I did more of my own colors, and I did a teal again and royal blue, and I'll put in a picture, but it basically, because the Norwegian Rose, what is it called? The pattern. The colorwork pattern. So the colorwork part of it is 3 very big flowers. There wasn't an easy way for me to figure out how to make it smaller, and unless I would cut something in half or cut it off strangely, and it ended up huge. So I gifted it to another friend. And then I got my first ever test knit. So this commences the summer of so many test knits. So I started out, I got the test knit of the Zephyr sweater by Julia Pyro, who is ENSQ knits, I believe. And that pattern, I started working on it in April when I got it. And I had started knitting it in, somehow I ended up knitting it in a much larger needle size. I thought I was knitting it in the recommended, well, no, I never knit in the recommended size because I knit really, really tight. So I thought I was knitting it one size up from the recommended, which would have been a 5mm. And it turns out I was knitting it on a 6mm, which when I had gotten all the way through the body when I was working on it with my friends, on a Zoom call, and they looked at it closely. I was talking about it, and they're like, "Are you sure you're knitting on a 5 millimeter needle?" And I looked closely, and I was not. So yeah, I was perplexed by why the weave was so big, and now I know. So I frogged the whole thing. So I knit the whole thing in a couple of weeks, and then I frogged it, and then I reknit it again. So I just barely made the end of the test knit deadline at the end of May. But I knit it in Knit Picks cotton in the color Surf and Planetarium, so it's like a bright teal and a almost navy, like really dark blue stripe colorway, and it turned out really cute. However, it was just not quite a style I wear, so I frogged it. It's going to be a theme. Welcome to I Knit and Frog. Right? So I knit the Zephyr sweater, and it turned out really adorable, and I am eventually going to make one for someone else, but I frogged it because it was not quite my style, and it was something I just didn't know as a new knitter. So then the next thing I knitted was, oh yes, so I had a knit in July. I knit the Leah Whittigan. It was a test knit, and unfortunately I don't remember much about it because I accidentally felted it, and when I felted it, I stopped hearing from anybody, and that was totally my fault. Honestly, it was a newbie mistake. I had moved, so some of this happened with I moved, got a new washer and dryer. Our old washer and dryer had the spin cycle, had the spin out water option, and I guess our new one doesn't. And I was trying to figure that out, and so I hand washed, and was very, very careful, this whole mohair fitting cardigan style knit, and it was beautiful, and it was so soft, and it held so much water. So I thought I would just spin it in our new dryer, or yes, new washer, and that was too much for it, and it shrunk. And now it's like a 2-year-old size sweater. But also it's felted, so it's like 3 inches thick. Nobody would want to wear that. I felt terrible, and I will find the pattern if anyone is interested. But as a beginner knitter, I learned my first lesson about how things can felt the hard way. And also I loved, this was the only, I never, this was the first time I knit was the first time I actually knit with mohair. I knit with the Kremka Soul Wool, Baby Soul, the mohair version, I don't know. And it was beautiful, and it was so soft, but it felted. So I don't know if that mohair would have irritated me, but the mohair that I found out later when I knitted a different mohair that really bothers me, and so now I don't think I will be knitting mohair again. But anyway, so after that, in July, I had last year I had made, was it last year? No, it was the year before. The year before I made a scrappy granny square style quilt for a friend in all of my leftover fabric scraps from various quilt projects, and then I used black binding bordering. So each granny square had a black border, so it's just squares. And it was in a rainbow ombre style color palette with literally every color I had. I had to dye some leftover muslin in an orange coral color because I didn't have any orange at all. But it turned out really beautiful. And so I wanted to knit a little stuffy to go with it. So this friend is someone who's had a lot of similar life challenges as I've had. She's also disabled. So I thought that they would appreciate the emotional support chicken that was a huge, what's the word I'm looking for? Phenomenon this year. Like everybody and their brother knit the emotional support chicken. So I knit the emotional support chicken and I used this rainbow gradient wool from Nicey, which was another brand I'd never seen before, and it was really pretty. So I marled that together with a white fingering weight or lace. I think it was a lace weight acrylic yarn because I wanted it to be sturdy. I wanted it to hold up really well, and so it ended up with this really pretty like white rainbow marl gradient, and it was very beautiful. And I honestly am looking forward to making one for myself. But that turned out adorable, and that was one I finished in July. And then at the end of July, middle of July, I'm not sure, in July, I participated in Nitty Natty's Sock Week challenge, Sock Week event. I don't know. So I spent that week knitting my first ever pair of socks. I used Summerlee's book and I knit my socks in a toe up, like simple, what is it called? Vanilla. Toe up vanilla sock style. And I used her like 47 stitch cast on. So I have really small feet, which is part of why once I finally wore these this week, I'm just like amazed. And also, I want more hand knit socks, but I don't want to knit them. So I knit these in Barocco. They're like printed sock color called Beach House, which is like a purple, green, teal, gray. And I somehow managed to match them pretty closely, so they look very evenly matched. They turn out adorable, and I'll put a picture in here because I'm wearing them and I'm not going to pull my foot up to my face to try to show you what they look like. But they turned out adorable. They're so comfy, and I want more socks, but I can't figure out how to knit two at a time, and I really don't enjoy knitting the second one. So maybe if someone has like a really good, really like, I don't know, clearly overhead view tutorial of how to knit two at a time socks, toe up especially because I really like that fit. I would appreciate it. So then, the Caribea or Rebecca's Toasted Tank pattern came out, and I decided to knit a toasted tank. So I knit my toasted tank in, again, this is in Knit Ticks Cotton and the color Surf, and I'll put in B-roll. So I knit that. I did a folded over hem, which is lovely, and I did a scallop lace edging on the arms, but I also did a folded over neckband in, did I rip this? No, I think this is just in straight up stockinette. Yes, this is stockinette. So yeah, so I did folded over hem, which I think turned out lovely. I will say this for Rebecca's, for this pattern. So I am a small, I'm 34-inch to 36-inch bust and probably a B cup. And so I didn't need the bust shaping, and it turned out lovely. It fits me like a glove. And the only problem is that I don't like my clothing to fit me like a glove. So I have never worn this. I genuinely am so uncomfortable in this. but it's beautiful. So I may be frogging this. I have kept it so far because it's just a lovely example. Oh no, whoops. There's a lovely example of, oh, my cat was in this. What's that for me? Anyway, it's a lovely example of knitting, and apparently one of the cats really likes it because it looks like it's covered in claw marks. So yeah, that was beautiful. I had so much fun knitting it. I love the way it looks. It is lovely and form fitting, and I cannot stand showing that much of my body. So I will probably never wear it. Also, I did the neck in stockinette, folded over stockinette, and I used a crochet hook cast off, and it is tight. Like, I can barely get this over my head. So that's another not great part of it. Like you said, once it's on, it looks great. Once it's on, it's real uncomfortable to get it on. And then in August, if I can find it. Oh, hold on. All right. So then in August, next in August, I joined a lot of other podcasters and knitters, and I knit the Sandra socks for Laura McLean. So this sock I knit in Knit Picks Hawthorne in the color Mount Tabor, and I'm a size 0. I don't know. I'm the smallest size, but I used about a half of a skein for them, and I love the look of them. I love the feel of them. I don't like the length of them. So this is something that I knew about myself beforehand, but these were really fun knit, and I think I'm going to re-knit them as like a shorty sock so that I actually wear them. But that is a Cassandra sock, and that turned out cute as well and comfy cozy. I just need to fix it, so I actually want to wear it. And then, yes. Okay. So next, I did this was first. This is one. All right. So next for our very long tale of past knit mania, I will also put in the B-roll for this one. So I knit this really squishy, cozy, sort of mid-weight-ish sweater. In the summer, I knit it in. So in August, I knit the Stubblefield sweater test knit for Yarn Over Everything, and this was knit in fine brand Kobu, and I got the sleeves to the right length. But I'll put in some B-roll. So what I did not know is that if it's like pretty much a straight square with no short rows, you get kind of almost a reverse curtain. So the hem kind of goes like this on the front and the back, and I really don't like the way that it looks. So I think I might be frauding this one and reknitting it in either reknitting this pattern or reknitting something else. But I really enjoy the broken rib texture. I just cannot handle the fact that it looks so uneven. So yeah, so I knit the double field sweater. I yarn over everything, and I actually finished this in October after, which is when it was due. It was due in October, and then I added some length on the sleeves, and I still was going to add some length on the body, but I realized after just now doing some B-roll for it that I don't like the fit, so there's no point. But it was a fun knit. I really like the Lion Brand Kobu. It's squishy, it's comfy. I feel like it'd be a really good, like, lightweight sweater. I wear a lot of more lightweight kind of summer sweater styles, so I will have to reuse this yarn and something else. Alright. So next, I knit this one. I knit this. So this was another test knit. This was for Nishi Faz Knits for Michelle, and it was the Under the Eye Beading. And for this one, I ordered a couple of different colors of yarn, and I ended up knitting it out of just 2 different colors of Lion Brand LB Collection Baby Alpaca in charcoal and lavender, I believe. So this was a smaller one, smaller style pattern, and there's an option to omit. It will omit another row of ivy to make it shorter if you're small and you have a small head. And so I did that. I omitted the row of ivy, so it has I have a little space on the top of my head, but not a ton, and I have generally a very small head. So I need to put in some B-roll for you. I think it's really cute. So soft. I don't think I like mohair. I think I might be okay with alpaca because I really enjoy this, but we'll have to find out. And then next in November, we're going back to September. So in September, I also started, in August, I started this one. So this is my beachside mock cable cardigan test knit for knit by Lillian, and I love this pattern. I really like this wool. It doesn't quite fit me the way I want it to, but that is a me problem. Again, not knowing what I was looking for in a fit. So I prefer something slightly longer, which I didn't know was really hard to modify for in a bottom-up cardigan. So this fits exactly as intended. It's adorable. It's very well done. The only other issue I had was knee issue, because again, very, very tight knitter. My button band was curling up, and so I had to take the button band off and just knit it separately as a long strip of 2x2 ribbon, and then hand sew it back on, which as a sewist was fine. It doesn't bother me to sew something. Like a lot of other knitters complain about seaming. Seaming is whatever to me. Like I find it fine. I just, especially something like this, it's so simple, and I can see where I'm putting the thread, and so it's less stressful for me than something like trying to sew on a quilt binding where I can't see both sides of the needle and can't always tell what I'm doing. So that one was beautiful. well loved. I think it's a really cute, kind of fancy cardigan. I highly recommend you knit this for the lace pattern alone if you like lace, or if you like cables, because honestly it looks like both. So that, whoops, that was my button. Oops. That was my mock cable. And then I spent most of November and December working on this. So this gorgeous beast of a pattern. I have some B-roll for you on this one again. Beautiful. I love how it looks. It's so soft and it's so itchy. So again, I've never knit with mohair, so I knit this with mohair, and ooh, gosh, it's itchy. I find it really itchy. So when I knit this, again, it's my first time completing a project mohair and then actually being able to put it on my body rather than shrinking it to like a 2-year-old size. So this is the Mountains and Seas sweater by Sarah's Handbake, and I knit that in Patton's Grace, which is a cotton yarn, and then I knit it in a thrifted mohair, which is the purple, teal, and orange colorway, and it was beautiful, and it like embodied what I wanted Mountains and Seas to look like, and it turned out gorgeous, and it's the like whole of the sweater is so cozy if it wasn't itchy. So I plan on remaking that pattern as soon as I finish my salty days, which I'm still working on right now. So that is my last knit of 2024. Okay, so I forgot this one. So I have another gift knit that I talked about quite a bit in the last couple podcasts, but it was the one I finished before I finished my Mountains and Seas, and that is the Pressed Flowers kerchief that I knit in white and blue Premier Basic yarn for my mother-in-law. And my sister-in-law, because I couldn't be there for the actual family event, put it on her casket. And so that was, it was very moving for me to be able to be included in that way, because I so badly wanted to be there and I couldn't. But yeah, so this is not exactly the pattern, but I sort of did a riff on the free Pressed Flowers kerchief pattern by Amy Christoffers, and I just knit it much longer, and I knitted it into a triangle instead of, I think, the actual kerchief is square, and I add ties, so it could be more of a shawl, because I envisioned it being used to keep warm, like in the hospital or in her bed or whatever. So that I finished it just in time, and I sent it to Houston with my partner. Yeah, but that is all the things I knit this year. I knit one thing I discovered. One thing I discovered when I sat down and counted everything up, to the best of my ability, I had, in some form or another, knitted 10 sweaters, 9 accessories, 4 blankets, none of which I completed, 2 pairs of socks, and 2 baby toy softy knits. So I think that was a pretty good roundup year for my first ever year knitting garments, my first ever year like knitting primarily as a knitter as opposed to focusing more on sewing or crochet as other sorts of creative outlets. I think I had a really good year. But as far as like my good year, like I had a good year in progress and a good year in learning about garments. And I did not keep very many of my garments. And of the ones I kept, I think I'm gonna frog at least half of these. So I plan on using the yarn. My goals, I will talk more about my goals in another video, but definitely one of my goals is to get a better idea of the style, figure out the style of sweater I like, and have more finished knits that I can actually wear in my day-to-day life, rather than like this, which is my own self-dyed. I used ice dye sweater. It was a store-bought sweater, right? But I could definitely knit something like this, and it's probably one by one width. I'm not sure. Kind of looks like Andrea Mowry's Everyday, but it has a V-neck, so something like that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that walkthrough 2024 in many yards of knitting. I think I knitted about 10,000 yards or something. That's what it looked like. It said on my Ravelry page. But I would love to hear what your favorite knit was this year, or what your favorite lesson in knitting was this year. Maybe you learned something about short rows, which I need to learn. Or maybe you learned what your favorite style of garment is, or what your favorite yarn is. I would love to hear more about that in the comments below. And if you're at all, it would help my channel, and I would appreciate it if you would like this video, subscribe to my channel, and follow along for more updates, because hopefully next week we'll be back with a podcast episode on Thursdays. I plan on dropping a podcast, an episode, or a video every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And also follow along for my probable final January update video of what my project or year forecasted plans are for 2025. I hope you're well. I hope you've had a wonderful year of knitting as well, and I will see you again soon. Bye.